the pen feels heavier than it should. Heavier than metal. Heavier than memory. Heavier than the choices sitting in front of me like sealed doors I can never reopen once I cross through them. The attorney's office smells faintly of jasmine and polished wood, a scent that settles into the back of my throat the longer I sit here. Her perfume clings to the air, expensive and floral, the kind that belongs to someone who never hurries and never doubts. Papers spread across the mahogany desk between us, each page waiting for my signature as the rain outside taps against the long glass window like impatient fingers. My phone vibrates again, a small tremor on the leather armrest. The screen lights with a name I know too well. Lila, my daughter. The 43rd call this week. I have not picked up the last 42. I do not pick up this one. 3 days have passed since I heard her voice, and I no longer trust myself to hear it without losing something I cannot afford to lose. Mrs. Renison, the lawyer says gently. Her voice is steady, professional, a soft tether pulling me back to the present moment. Are you absolutely certain you want to proceed? I look down at the documents. Their crisp edges, their permanence, their power. I can feel my heartbeat in the tips of my fingers as they hover over the signature line. The ink at the tip of the pen glistens under the white ceiling lights. I can hear the tiny clicks of the clock on the far wall, marking each second as it slips out of reach. Outside, the late autumn rain streaks the window like thin silver wires. The storm has not let up since dawn. The city of Austin is blurred behind it, washed in gray. Every building softened by the weather. It feels fitting, somehow, that the world outside looks like a memory smudged by time. The attorney slides another paper toward me with practiced precision. Her face is calm, but her eyes watch me closely. She knows the weight of what I am about to do. She knows it is not a decision born in a moment of anger, but the echo of something deeper and quieter that has been growing inside me for years. My phone buzzes once more. Lila's name flashes again. My only child. The person I once believed would never turn against me. The daughter I raised on my own through grief and long nights and years of sacrifice that shaped every bone in my body. I silence the phone and place it face down. All right, I say finally. I lift my chin. Let's do it. I sign the first document. My name curves across the page in careful strokes. Then the second. The pen glides more easily now. Then the third. Each signature steadier than the last. Before I reach the final page, I look up at the attorney. There is one more thing, I say. I need to make a phone call. She nods and pushes her office phone toward me. The receiver feels cold in my hand as I dial the number I know by heart. It rings once, twice, 3 times. Mom. Lila's voice bursts through the line, breathless and shaking. Mom, is that you? I look at the signed documents in front of me, at the rain, at everything I am about to change. Lila, I say, listen carefully. I am only going to say this once. Then I speak the 4 words that will unravel everything. 3 weeks earlier, before the lawyer's office, before the rain-soaked window and the trembling phone, I had woken before dawn in my small farmhouse on the outskirts of Bastrop. The world was still dark when I backed my truck out of the driveway, headlights sweeping across the familiar stretch of land my husband and I once tended together. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt, how peaceful. I had no idea that by the end of the day, that peace would be something I would not recognize anymore. The drive into Austin took a little over an hour, long enough for me to rehearse what I planned to say to my daughter on her wedding day. I wanted to tell her how proud I was, how beautiful she looked even as a child, how much her father would have loved to see her in white. The kind of words a mother saves for the most important days. I carried those words like delicate glass in my chest, believing there would be a moment to offer them. Her text came just as I crossed the river. "We are all set, Mom. Just relax and enjoy the day." A short message. Warm enough on the surface. But there was distance in it too, the kind that had grown between us over the past year, subtle and sharp as a paper cut. The venue her fiancé's family had chosen sat high on a hill overlooking the city, all stone arches and manicured gardens, and soft music drifting from hidden speakers. Inside, everything felt curated and expensive. Crystal glasses, white roses, servers moving with practiced grace. I smoothed the skirt of my pale sage dress, the one I bought on sale at a small boutique in town. It was more money than I should have spent, but it felt important. A mother should look her best on such a day. Lila was radiant in lace, surrounded by bridesmaids in matching champagne silk. She barely glanced at me when I arrived, too busy posing for photos arranged by her future mother-in-law, a woman who moved with effortless authority, orchestrating everything as though she owned the day itself. I tried to stay out of the way, offering small smiles and quiet encouragement from a distance. I had brought a card with $7,000 inside, money earned from months of double shifts. I thought I might slip it to her during a quiet moment. Maybe after the ceremony, when the crowd thinned and she would finally see me, not as an obligation, but as her mother. But the moment never came. Every time I stepped closer, someone redirected me with polite words and stiff smiles. Not yet. Maybe later. She is busy. She is overwhelmed. She is with the photographer. She is with the bridesmaids. She is with his family. I kept telling myself not to take it personally. It was her wedding day, after all, a day full of movement and stress and attention, a day where I believed, naively, that no wound could be inflicted deep enough to leave a scar. I was wrong. The music was loud enough to make the floor pulse beneath my heels, a steady beat that threaded itself through the laughter and chatter of the reception hall. Guests filled the room with bright colors and bright voices, swirling around me like a current I could barely keep my footing in. The ceremony had been beautiful. Lila glowed. Her groom beamed. People cried soft, polite tears. Everything unfolded like the script of a perfect wedding. Everything, except how invisible I felt in the middle of it. I stood by the dessert table, pretending to study the rows of miniature tarts and lemon squares as servers arranged them with silver tongs. My hands were cold on the stem of my glass. The scent of vanilla frosting hung in the air. I watched the dance floor where Lila twirled in lace, never once looking in my direction. I kept telling myself the moment would come. The two of us, alone long enough for her to notice the tremor in my smile and the pride behind it. But every time I tried to step closer to her, someone else reached her first. Bridesmaids, in-laws, photographers, coordinators. And every time I paused, waiting my turn, something in her expression told me that she preferred it that way. Then I heard it. Mom. Not warm, not relieved, not joyful, flat, tense. I turned. Lila stood 3 feet away, her bouquet wilting slightly in her hand, her veil pushed back, her jaw set tight. She looked like someone trying very hard to keep her composure. Lila, sweetheart, the ceremony was beautiful. You looked stunning. I barely finished the sentence before she interrupted. Mom, I need you to leave. The words hit with a coldness so sharp it felt physical. For a second, I truly believed I misheard her. The music was too loud, the room too crowded, my ears buzzing from standing too close to the speakers. Leave? I asked quietly. Her eyes flicked away, then back, never resting long on mine. Her voice lowered, clipped. You are making people uncomfortable. People. Not her. Not even her husband. People. What people? She shifted, the lace on her sleeves catching the lights overhead. It does not matter. This is my day and I need everything perfect. There has been talk, Mom. You should not have worn that dress. It is too informal. And you were standing too close during our photos. It looked like you were trying to insert yourself. The words stung more than I expected. I had chosen the dress carefully. I had waited quietly during the photos. I had tried to be nothing but supportive. My throat tightened. Lila looked away again, her voice harder this time. Please do not make this a scene. Just go. We can talk later. Later. The same word she had used so many times before. Later for holidays. Later for birthdays. Later for the hard conversations that never came. I set my glass down on the linen-draped table, the stem making a soft tap as it met the cloth. Then I reached into my purse and touched the envelope with the $7,000 inside. I almost gave it to her, almost handed it over even as she stood there dismissing me like a stranger. But something inside me stopped. "All right," I said. My voice did not shake. "I will go." I walked through the reception hall alone, passing faces filled with joy that did not belong to me. No one stopped me. No one asked if I was all right. My heels clicked on the wood floor like a metronome marking the end of something I had not realized was fragile until it shattered. The sunlight outside was blinding. The hilltop wind tugged at my hair. I walked to my truck, unlocked the door with numb fingers, and looked back only once. Through the windows, I could see the silhouettes of people dancing, celebrating, living inside a moment the bride demanded I did not belong in. I drove away without a word. The morning after the wedding began like any other morning, except for the weight in my chest that made drawing breath feel like a chore. I had barely slept. The memory of Lila's face, tight and impatient, still hovered behind my eyes the moment I opened them. I brewed coffee out of habit but could not drink more than a sip. The bitterness tasted too much like the night before. By 7:30, I was outside pulling weeds along the fence line, trying to keep my hands busy so my mind would not fracture under the pressure of what had happened. The sun was warm on my shoulders, already bright over the pasture. The earth smelled clean and damp from last night's dew. I told myself that this was grounding, that focusing on the land might steady something inside me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. When I pulled it out, her name lit the screen. Lila. For a moment, I hesitated. A foolish part of me hoped she was calling to apologize, to say she regretted how she treated me, to acknowledge even a fraction of the pain she caused. I answered. "Mom, hey." Her voice was bright, casual, almost cheerful, like the night before had been erased. "Quick question. Can you send me the ranch documents?" I froze, hand still buried in the soil. "The ranch documents," I repeated slowly. "Yeah." She sounded breathless with excitement. "Owen and I were talking this morning, and we think your land would be perfect for a development project. His uncle is a contractor, a really successful one. He says the acreage could be turned into luxury cabins or retreats. The market is hot for that right now. You could make a ton of money, as if that was the measure of the land's worth. As if 70 years of family history equaled a line item in someone else's business plan. We thought we could start the process this week," she continued, "and of course we would split the profit with you. Maybe 60-40 since we will be doing all the heavy work on our end." I straightened slowly. The phone felt heavier in my hand. "Lila, this is your family's land. It was your father's, your grandfather's, you know that." "Yes, Mom, but it is not doing anything. It is just sitting there. And you are not getting younger. That place is too much work for one person." Owen actually found this beautiful retirement villa about 20 minutes away from us. You would love it. They have a pool, a retirement villa, at 58. You want to move me out of my home, I said quietly. Mom, be reasonable. You cannot manage 40 acres forever. This is smart planning, smart planning. Her voice had that tone she used when she wanted something and believed she deserved it simply because she asked. The same tone I had given into too many times when she was growing up. No, Lila. The answer is no. Silence. Then a sudden sharpness. Mom, do not be difficult. This is my future, too. Owen's uncle needs the documents by Wednesday. We already told him you would send them. You what? We need this, Mom. Do not ruin it. Ruin it. That word twisted something inside me, something tender and old and already bruised. I am not sending anything, I said. Not today, not ever. Her breath caught, and for the first time, her cheerful tone cracked. Mom, you cannot do this. I ended the call. The phone buzzed again immediately, and again and again. I let it ring. The calls kept coming long after I pressed the red button. Lila's name lit the screen again and again, each ring a sharp needle against the quiet morning. I turned the phone face down on the kitchen table, letting the sunlight warm its dark surface, even as my stomach twisted with something between heartbreak and disbelief. By noon, the messages shifted. The cheerful tone vanished. In its place were clipped commands and thinly veiled threats. You are overreacting. You are being impossible. Do not make us go through legal channels. Mom, stop this before it gets worse. I did not answer any of them. That afternoon, the wind picked up across the pasture, a dry, restless wind, as if the land itself sensed the shift in my world. I walked the fence line, checking the posts the way my husband used to. He always ran his hands along the wood, claiming he could feel a break before he could see it. I never believed him until the day he showed me a cracked post, split clean down the center. I missed him sharply in that moment. Halfway down the slope, near the old cattle gate, something caught my eye. The fence had been cut. Not broken. Cut. Clean, deliberate incision through wire that should have taken bolt cutters. The grass nearby was flattened, as though someone had been standing there recently. Fresh boot prints marked the dirt. Large. Deep. My breath stilled. A truck engine rumbled faintly from the road. When I turned, a dark pickup sat parked just beyond the property line, windows tinted, engine idling. Watching. Waiting. The wind carried dust into the air between us, making the scene feel dreamlike and dangerous. I lifted my hand to shade my eyes, but before I could make out the driver, the truck backed up, turned, and drove away. My fingers shook as I repaired the fence, weaving new wire through the posts with muscle memory I didn't know I still had. Someone had stepped onto my land. Someone who had a reason to pressure me. Someone who might have been told I would be easy to convince. That night, a storm rolled in. The kind that rattled window panes and made the trees groan under the weight of the wind. Thunder shook the house, echoing in the empty rooms. I sat in my late husband's chair, trying to read, but the storm drowned out the words. When lightning flashed across the yard, I saw the shape of something near the barn. A silhouette. Still. Watching. I stood so quickly, the chair scraped against the floor. The second flash came, and the figure was gone. Fear tightened around my ribs, but anger pressed against it, stronger. This land belonged to my family. No contractor, no developer, no man hiding in the dark had the right to step foot on it. Near midnight, a new voicemail came through. I did not want to listen, but something urged me to press play. "Mom," Lila said, her voice raw and strained. "I do not know why you are being like this, but Owen's uncle is furious. You promised this land to me years ago." "We all remember. You cannot go back on your word. A promise. An invented one." I had never promised her anything of the sort. But hearing her voice crack in desperation, I realized something chilling. She believed she could force my hand because she had already told people she controlled the outcome. Another voicemail arrived. This time, Owen. "Mrs. Renison," he said smoothly. His tone was polite, but beneath it lay something sharper. "I understand you are hesitant, but this deal is time-sensitive. If you do not release the deed, we will pursue our options. It would be unfortunate if this became a legal matter." Legal matter. Options. Unfortunate. The threats were no longer veiled. The storm outside intensified, rattling the windows so hard I thought the glass might crack. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to shift with every flash of lightning. I felt the weight of the land beneath me, solid and ancient, the same land my husband had begged me to protect. I stood and walked to the window, watching the rain fall sideways across the pasture. The oak trees bent but did not break. Neither would I. I knew then that this was no longer just a disagreement, no longer about money or development or convenience. This was war, and I would fight it. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving the sky washed clean and pale. The land smelled of wet soil and cedar, a scent that usually calmed me. But not that day. I drove into Austin with my jaw clenched so tight I felt a dull ache in my temples. My hands gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary, the memory of the cut fence and the watching truck still lingering like a residue on my skin. The attorney, Ms. Nolan, looked up from her desk as I entered. Something in her expression shifted when she saw my face. "Karen," she said gently, "are you all right?" "No," I answered, "but I will be. I need to protect my land. Permanently." She motioned for me to sit. "Tell me what is going on." I explained everything. The wedding, the demand for the deed, the cut fence, the truck with tinted windows, the threatening voicemail. Lila's claim that I had promised her the land. I watched Ms. Nolan's face grow more serious with each detail. When I finished, she folded her hands over a legal pad. "You are dealing with people under pressure," she said. "Pressure makes them dangerous, but you have options." "What kind of options?" "The kind that make your land untouchable." That word settled over me like a weight lifting. Untouchable. Ms. Nolan pulled a thick folder from her cabinet. Conservation Trust. It is the strongest legal protection available. If you donate your land into an irrevocable conservation trust, no one can develop it. No one can sell it. No one can subdivide it. It becomes protected space. Permanently. Permanently. The same word my husband whispered the night before he died, the last night he could speak clearly. Protect the land. Keep it permanent. I swallowed hard. What do I have to do? Sign the trust. It removes the land from your estate so no heir, including your daughter, can contest it later. She paused, then added carefully, "But once you sign, it cannot be undone." "Good," I said. "That is what I want." She studied me for a long moment, then pulled out another document. As she opened it, a small frown tugged at her brow. "Karen," she said slowly, "did you know you already drafted a trust once?" I stared at her. "What?" She turned the document so I could see. My own handwriting filled the signature line. My name dated nearly 10 years earlier. A trust draft prepared months after my husband died, a trust I had forgotten entirely. "It was never filed," Ms. Nolan said. "It was only a preliminary document, a safeguard recommended by your husband's estate attorney in case something happened to you prematurely." I touched the paper as though it might dissolve. I had signed this, signed it during the fog of grief, when I was still learning to breathe without him. Some part of me had already known the land needed protecting. Miss Nolan gave a small, knowing nod. This shows intent, long-standing intent. If your daughter tries to challenge the trust later, this strengthens your case. Dramatically. A strange calm settled over me. Not relief, exactly. Something deeper. Something steady and immovable. Finish it, I said softly. File the trust. Make it permanent. Ms. Nolan placed the final documents before me, and this time, when I picked up the pen, my hand did not tremble at all. Ms. Nolan had just sealed the final envelope when my phone buzzed again. This time, I did not silence it. I picked it up and stared at Lila's name glowing across the screen. My breath steadied, my spine lengthened, and something inside me felt clearer than it had in years. "Answer it," Ms. Nolan said quietly. "You should." I placed the phone on speaker and set it on the desk. "Mom!" Lila's voice burst through the line, strained and frantic. "Mom, thank God. Please, listen. You need to pick up right now. Everything is falling apart." I exchanged a glance with Ms. Nolan, but said nothing. "Owen's uncle is in trouble," Lila continued, her words tumbling over each other. "His investors pulled out. They said something about an investigation. There were rumors he inflated project values or forged signatures, or I do not know. But they expected the land. Mom, we told them you already agreed. They were counting on it. They are threatening us. Threatening." My jaw tightened. "Mom, please. They said we misled them. They said they will involve authorities. Owen is furious. He thinks this is my fault. He said if you do not send the ranch documents, everything will fall on us." There it was. Not concern for me. Not remorse. Fear. Self-protection. The realization stung, but no longer surprised me. "Lila," I said calmly, "there is something you need to hear." I watched Ms. Nolan fold her hands, listening. But before I could speak, Lila's voice cracked. "Mom, please. This is not a game. You have to help us. You do not understand what they are capable of. Owen is not the same. He has been yelling all morning. He said he will lose everything because of you. Please, please fix this." I took a slow breath. "Lila," I said, "listen carefully. I am only going to say this once." A silence stretched thin across the speaker. "It is gone forever." On the other end, her breathing stopped. The storm outside the week before felt quiet compared to the stillness that followed those words. "What?" Her voice came out tiny, stunned. "What do you mean?" "The land is no longer mine," I said. "It has been placed in a permanent conservation trust. It cannot be sold. It cannot be developed. It cannot be transferred. It cannot belong to you, Owen, or anyone else." "You cannot do that," she cried. "You cannot. That was supposed to be mine. You promised." "I never promised you the land," I said. "You told people I did. Those are not the same." Her voice broke into sharp, panicked breaths. "Mom, you do not understand. Owen needs this. His uncle needs this. They told us we would be set for life once the project started. They said they would help us buy our own house. They said we would be taken care of." Something in her tone shifted then. A tremor of realization. A fracture. A truth finally taking shape. "Mom," she whispered. "Owen just told me something. He said if the deal falls through, he is done. He said this marriage was supposed to secure our future. He said I brought him nothing." She sucked in a breath. "He said once the land was transferred, he planned to file. He planned to leave me." I closed my eyes. I did not want to be right, but I had known. Lila began to sob. harsh, broken sounds that cut through the room. "Mom, please. I have made a mistake. I did not know. I thought he loved me." I kept my voice steady. "Lila, love does not demand you betray your family. Love does not isolate you or use you. What he wanted was the land, not you." She cried harder. "I am sorry," I whispered. "But this was your choice. You must live with it." "No. Please do not hang up. Mom, Mom, talk to me. Please, do not let me go like this." But I could hear the attorney's words echoing. "You cannot undo a lifetime of choices for someone who refuses to see them." "Goodbye, Lila," I said softly. Before she could speak again, I ended the call, and this time, the phone stayed silent. 6 months passed before the land felt quiet again. Winter softened into spring, and wild flowers returned in colors so bright they looked almost unreal. I spent my mornings walking the trails behind the barn, the ones my husband carved out with an old tractor long before Lila was born. The Conservation Trust partnered with local schools, and soon busloads of children arrived each week to learn about soil, water, and oak restoration. Their laughter filled the air in a way that felt healing, not intrusive. It reminded me that land can carry scars and still grow something beautiful. I never heard from Owen again. His name disappeared from public records after the investigation. Lila, however, sent one handwritten letter in late April. 3 pages, ink smudged in places where her tears must have fallen. She apologized for the wedding, for the threats, for her blindness. She said she finally understood what it meant to give everything to someone who only saw value when it benefited them. She wrote that she hoped one day I might forgive her, but she understood if I could not. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer where I keep things I am not ready to part with, but not ready to hold closely either. Healing, like the land, requires time. And this is what I learned. Love that demands your silence is not love. Family that sees you as a resource is not family. Legacy is not what you leave behind. It is what you refuse to let be taken. Some stories end with reconciliation. Mine ends with preservation and peace. Looking back now, I finally understand that protecting my peace was not an act of cruelty. It was an act of survival. I spent years believing that love meant giving without limit, bending without breaking, sacrificing without expecting anything in return. But real love has boundaries, even when it is painful to draw them. My daughter chose a path that led her away from me, and I chose a path that led me back to myself. The land I protected is more than soil and history. It is a reminder that some things must be preserved, even when people we care for try to take them apart. And sometimes the hardest thing we will ever do is let someone we love face the consequences of their own choices. What lesson did you learn from this story, and which city are you watching from?